Scottish football's historically had massive clubs winning European titles. You talk about Rangers, Celtic, and just being involved in European tournaments, and Sir Alex Ferguson with Aberdeen, and now there is no representation for Scottish football in Champions League. And you look at Cypriot clubs like Paphos are in Champions League, and there's no Rangers, no Celtic. It's a massive blow to Scottish football.
Yeah, here's a look at the stats, which just kind of reflect that there was more fouls than anything. Just 2 shots on target in the entire match, both of which fell for Celtic. Why do you think we saw that sort of game play out today? Do you think it's because of the disappointment of both of the teams that were trying to push to get in the Champions League? Now they're playing in the Europa League, or is it just a slow start to the season and it's such an intense match that sometimes that just happens?
I think it was the Rangers at home. It was their responsibility to push the game, and they did the way that they can with their physicality, and they tried to win first balls, second balls. They tried to make the game ugly. The game never really settled down, but they didn't have the quality then to hurt Celtic, that haven't conceded a goal in 6 games now, or whatever it is. So that's what it was. Celtic, I think, walk away and say, okay, not the end of the world for us. They have a draw. They don't concede again. Carter Vickers obviously having that's the one silver lining of this match. Another clean sheet for him. I thought pretty good performance. But it was, for me, the game was ugly because it was on Rangers to push the game, and they didn't have the quality to match to beat Celtic.
Yeah, it wasn't a classic at all. The quality wasn't there. The enthusiasm didn't seem to be there. And the purposefulness and direction. And like you said, I agree with Grella. There was more so on Rangers to push it, especially with everything that's going at the club with Russell Martin. This was a must-win for Russell Martin as a manager at Rangers, and luckily he comes out with a draw. Again, not really much to sing and dance about. Is it really? Is there any positives? They didn't lose the game. That's about it. But looking forward in the bigger picture of things, there isn't any great signs of progression, and it's not a Rangers that you could say, I can see them winning a lot of football matches, that they've got the ingredients, they're showing me everything, won the ball high up the pitch, but didn't go forward. Yep. No final pass, no end product. For Celtic, for me, I felt that Celtic was just literally playing in second gear the entire game. They just seemed so comfortable. They didn't seem like they were really trying to push the emphasis to even get a result themselves. They seemed like they're still in pre-season in the performance that they gave today. Didn't really have to push the envelope.
Mm-hmm. And it was strange to me. Like, both teams like the football when they're not playing each other. Rangers have 70% possession, which is second in the league. Celtic have 75%. So they dominate football matches when they play. But this one, there was maybe too much on the line, maybe too much emotion involved. The stakes are higher. They've both been knocked out of the Champions League. Obviously, Rangers don't have a win on the season. So maybe the tensions were high, and they just decided, okay, we're going to go longer and make the game uglier as long as we don't lose it. It looked to me like two teams that just didn't want to lose. Mm-hmm. They just went long and long and long and didn't really want to take chances playing, because Rangers knew that if they tried to play out, Celtic would pick them off and go in 1 or 2 passes quick and try to score. So they would rather say, okay, let's go long. And that's what it was. And Celtic they just went long, and that's what it was. No chances, really low XG, 34 fouls between them. So not the best spectacle, but both teams will walk away, I think, happy not having lost.
Yeah, I suppose in some ways, though, you could say Rangers, they needed to beat Celtic because Celtic have dominated the Scottish Premiership, and in the seasons past, it's been these games that's been the one string to their bow for Rangers, but it hasn't been a good run of results, as you can see. I mean, even the 6-0 loss to Club Brugge in the Champions League playoff, I think that just showed where they're at compared to Europe's elite. I mean, Russell Martin, you said he's under pressure. How much pressure is he in? Because he is statistically off to the worst start of any Rangers manager in history, with just 3 wins in 10 games, and the fans will just be thinking that's just not good enough.
He's under pressure. He was under pressure when he actually got appointed to Rangers, because there's a certain section of the fans that just weren't happy with him to be appointed as Rangers manager. I think it's a bit unfair. It's difficult. When you go into a job as a manager in that kind of situation, you already have a mountain to climb in most football clubs. But you're going in that situation to Rangers Football Club, so it's an even bigger mountain to climb. Hasn't got the results. The performances haven't been great, so that's gone against him. And then now you have the old firm. Like Grella said, luckily he can come out with a draw today, so that buys him a bit of time. I think in a realistic world or situation, you give him at least 10 games or so. Give him time to actually show what he can do. But this is the reality of when you are Rangers manager or even Celtic manager, you come under immense amount of pressure. There is a win, 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 win at all cost. We don't care. This is what the club's used to doing. This is what you have to do as a manager.
I mean, they've expected to at least challenge Celtic, aren't they, in the Scottish Premiership? And then in the seasons past, we've seen them have some epic nights in the Europa League and make deep runs in that competition. Really disappointing week for Scottish teams. Obviously, no Champions League football for them for the first time since 2021 at the 22 season. How big of a blow, Grell, is that for Scottish football?
Yeah, I think Celtic fans and the club itself judges itself predominantly on European nights because of the way they found it so easily domestically. At least they've made it look easy domestically. So Champions League football is a good way for them to measure where they're at. And they've built something where it was not good a few years back, but the last season they had some progression. So this is like a gut punch for them because I think they had ideas and designs to really go deep in this new format. It gives you the opportunity to get into a playoff bracket. And obviously they're going to miss out on all that. And now they become, though, a team that has to go on and have a long journey, like Nigel says, in the Europa League and push it because they're probably one of the bigger clubs now in that competition. Scottish
football has historically had massive clubs winning European titles. You talk about Rangers, Celtic, and just being involved in European tournaments. And Sir Alex Ferguson with Aberdeen. And now there is no representation for Scottish football in Champions League. And you look at Cypriot clubs like Paphos are in Champions League, and there's no Rangers, no Celtic. It's a massive blow to Scottish football. They dropped down to the Europa League, and then when you look at it there now, that's the coefficients there that the fact of Cypriot clubs have overtaken Scottish teams, and potentially Swedish clubs could go and overtake Scottish teams. That's a massive, massive blow. You talk about history and European football and what we've seen, and just the involvement of Scottish teams in there, no longer being in there, dropping down the competitions. It's not great.
It was a bit of a reality check, though, wasn't it, for Celtic? Last year in the Champions League, they had one of their biggest wins ever in the Champions League and then one of their biggest losses as well. In some ways, even though it is really disappointing not to see them playing in the Champions League, do you feel like the Europa League is better suited for them to make a deeper run in the competition?
For sure. I think they hit like a few walls, obviously, in the Champions League, where they, in the new format, if they went through to the knockout stages, that was a good accomplishment, but then they would have come up against the likes of a Liverpool, Arsenal, Real Madrid, PSG, like these type of clubs where it's pretty clear. Maybe they can upset one of them, but they're probably not going to upset a bunch of them. So in the Europa League, it's just much more realistic a goal to win that tournament than it is.
The Europa League is not going to be an easy walk in the park either because it's very competitive and a lot more even than the Champions League. They're a standout. Yes, they do. They've got a better chance. But also, I think it's the financial impact that we've also got to mention now. Not making the Champions League financially is going to be a massive blow to Celtic as well.